that everybody has. They've listed all pretty much the same one. We're all here for the same reason. And so I'm going to ask that you temper your comments, not in the name of political correctness, but rather in the name of treating each other decently. I know it's easy to become very accusatory and use very fiery language, and I'm going to ask that you do not. We are all human beings, and as such, we deserve to be treated decently, spoken decently to, respectfully. And I would like you to make every effort to temper your comments with compassion and with grace. That comes from me personally. That is not a proclamation from council, but that is definitely from me. Let us be very careful in the words that we use. All right, first name on my list is Rick Herndon. Please approach the microphone, state your name, your city of residence, and you have your 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
You already gave my name, but I live on Independence Road. I've been a lifetime resident of the Yakima Valley. I'm 70 years of age and a retired farmer. I've also been faithfully married to my wife, Dion, for almost 42 years. We have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. I believe my role in life is to be a husband, father, grandfather, and a contributor to my community as a volunteer, also to my church, helping fellow Christians grow in their faith and be a positive influence in this valley. To my life, I've been active in leading, training, discipling, and encouraging men, young and old, to follow the Bible and its teachings on relationships with others, especially women and children. The role most portrayed in both social and in entertainment is a poor example for leading families and raising children. Why is it that the most important information belittles men and their roles with families? There's nothing wrong and everything right when a young man abstains from a sexual relationship with a woman until they agree to enter into a covenant or sacrament of marriage and begin a family. Isn't this type of family the best for our community? Should this lifestyle elevated and encouraged when all statistics show this is the healthiest and most economically advantageous pursuit for individuals seeking happiness and contentment? I do have one question for the council. Why is it the role of the city government to make a proclamation and designate any month to recognize a select group of people, any group of people for that matter? We already have a large number of people living in single-parent households in our community and in the valley without a father. Yet good fathers and mothers contribute to raising healthy adults and a healthy community. It is estimated that over 5,000 families in Yakima County have only one parent raising children. The average of 3 children per household, that means over 15,000 kids are growing up probably without a dad. Father's Day is June 16th this year. If you want our community, why don't you highlight the role of good fathers who contribute so much to healthy families? So I'd like to submit an alternate proclamation with Sunnyside, declaring June as Father's Month. Here's my short proclamation. Whereas we stand together as members of families in our community, recognizing the critical role that we who serve their families as husbands and fathers, we support and encourage the honorification of fatherhood to foster healthy families of 2 parents. Whereas historically, the impact that the father contributes to his family, providing economic, social, emotional, even spiritual leadership, translates to better neighborhoods, community enrichment, and good morals. To provide an environment through churches, clubs, schools, and community activities, allowing for mentoring to take place and older, middle-aged, and young men to share conversation activities that transform their lives.
Sorry, your time is.
I'm almost done. I got one short paragraph. Whereas our community has.
If I let you go on, then I have to let everyone go on.
Okay. All right. That's it.
I thank you for your time, sir.
All right.
And thank you for understanding. Please, let's not have applause during the public comment section. That's not correct here. For the next person on my list is Nick Palakis.
Hi there. Thank you for your time. My name is Nick Palakis, and as a Bible-believing follower of Jesus Christ, I want to share my disappointment with the City Council's proclamation in support of the LGBT and Q. This lifestyle is without question against God's word and is called sin. And even though it may be legal by some courts, God's word stands as supreme authority in the universe. As Christians, we are called to love everyone, but we are also called not to condone or celebrate the sin of LGBT and Q. So I urge the vote against the proclamation of June LGBTQ Pride Month. And I have this for the city council. I have evidentiary information from the Bible, the scriptures that are involved. This is not an exhaustive list, but I am happy to give this to you and you can peruse it and make copies as
Pass
you
that
will.
to Mr. Sanchez. We can-
Like I said, it's not an exhaustive list, but there's a lot of the main topics in there that speak against what we're talking about. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. The next name on my list is Cody Driscoll.
All right. Hi, my name is Cody Driscoll. I'm a lifelong resident of Sunnyside, where I have worked in education for almost a decade. My question for you is, why are we still having this discussion of pride? Why do the religiously closed-minded continue to stand in the way of progress? Is it really so hard to acknowledge the existence of members of our community? Pretending they don't exist won't make them go away. We have no issue putting up Christmas lights and saying Merry Christmas. We have no issue praying before city council meetings, but we don't play favorites in Sunnyside, don't we? Right. There is no controversy. They are making a controversy. Pride doesn't mean nudity. Pride doesn't mean sexualization. Pride doesn't mean grooming of children. Pride is a celebration of the visibility and accomplishments of the LGBTQ plus community. You are not the victims. You are the problem. You stand in the way of progress in the name of your outdated worldviews, and you refuse to learn and grow. You claim to follow the rule of the Bible, yet you only cherry pick what you follow and what to ignore. But I'm not surprised. I'm never surprised at the blatant hypocrisy of Christians. In Genesis 1-27, it says, "So God created man in his own image, and in the image of man, God created him." If this is true in your beliefs, then God makes no mistakes, and those born in the LGBTQ plus community are as much a child of God as they claim to be. Protect the children is a slogan used by hypocrites. Public comment supposed to.
Excuse me, when we have somebody has the floor, they have the floor.
Thank you.
Comments and those types of comments are inappropriate, and that's what I was also referring to earlier in my.
No, you said be quiet.
You, sir, you are not participating in, this is not a discussion. You are addressing council.
Okay.
I would like to ask the audience members to please refrain from making comments.
I understand. Thank you. All right, so back to what I was saying. Protect the children is a slogan used by hypocrites. Protect them from what?
I
Protect.
would ask you to temper your speech though, sir.
What's another word for hypocrites? Liars. Okay. Protect them from what they know. Protect them from knowing who they are is not a problem. Protecting them from knowing that there is nothing wrong with them. I agree with you. Let's protect the children. I just disagree with who we're protecting them from. According to the National Library of Medicine, studies have shown attempts to conceal or erase the identity of children who identify as LGBTQ+ have more negative societal views, self-isolation, lowered self-esteem, and increased risk of suicide. According to these studies, being a part of the LGBTQ+ community doesn't itself lead to the mental health issues. It's actually the stigmatization, discrimination, and violence they face daily that affects their mental health, just like they're attempting to do now. So let me ask again, who are we protecting them from? Are we protecting them from the predators that prey on young children in their churches? Are we protecting these children from violence just for the way that they dress? Are we protecting children from increased risk of suicide because their own family, friends, and community refuse to acknowledge them? In Luke 6:37, it says, "Do not judge and you will not be judged. Do not condemn and you will not be condemned. Forgive and you will be forgiven. Be better. Who are we to judge?" Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next name on my list is Chelsea Demas.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chelsea Demas. I'm from Sunnyside. I'm here out of breath because I came running from another meeting. But I really felt like I needed to be here. I rushed over from the Tri-Cities as I stood with another community that's unionizing for their rights. As a human rights commissioner for the state, I stand to uphold all human rights, and we uphold the Washington law against discrimination. I was the one that submitted the Pride Proclamation because I feel very strongly about our LGBTQ+ community. I am part of that community. I'm a queer woman of color, and I'm proud of it. What I'm not proud of is that we constantly face barriers, that we constantly face judgment from our own community. That all we're doing here is we're trying to live, work, and thrive just like anybody else. We pay taxes. We buy homes. We buy and rent homes here. We raise our families here. We contribute to society just like anybody else. And a lot of the folks that are sitting here in council were also supported by the LGBTQ plus community, also canvassed with them, also contributed to their to who they are, to their campaign and what they believe in. And it's really disappointing to know that there are a couple of council members that went out of their way to organize churchgoers to be here today to harm a community. It's really disappointing. I just want all of you to think about who you're supporting here today, because this community is much more than just what we see on this council and in this room. We have a hardworking community here. We have farm workers, we have immigrants, we have LGBTQ plus community members. We have so much diversity here, and we should choose to celebrate it, not just during June, but every day. This Pride Proclamation isn't about putting one community over the other. It's about making sure you all know we exist, because even this day and age, with all of the progress, people refuse to acknowledge the fact that we exist. And it's frustrating. And it's a thing that I have to deal with every single day, and many of our other community members. So I hope when you take this vote, you think about your families, you think about your kids, you think about your grandchildren, because I'm sure all of you know someone who is queer and who's part of that community. I'm sure all of you know someone who's questioning and struggling with their identity and struggling with acceptance. So I hope when you take that vote, you vote for humanity, for human rights, and not your personal beliefs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next name on my list is Tim Bardell.
Tim Bardell. I live north of Sunnyside. I've been here for 40 some years. There's a time to be silent and there's a time to speak. Evil prevails where good men do nothing. I am an accomplice to evil if I don't speak up when there's an issue. So that's why I'm speaking today. The Old Testament prophet Isaiah said it well. Woe to them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light, light for darkness, and put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. For a large portion of the population of this fair community, they are influenced by the profound teachings of the Word of God, which has been called hate speech by some of the Marxist people trying to eliminate the influence of the Christian gospel in our community. Romans speaks about the LGBTQ, and it uses these words: therefore God gave them up to the lusts of their hearts, to impurity, to the dishonoring of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie, and worshiped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this reason God gave them up to dishonorable passions, for the women exchanged natural relations for those that are contrary to nature, and the men likewise gave up natural relations with women that were consumed with passion for one another, men committing shameless acts with men, and receiving in themselves the due penalty for their error. And since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a debased mind to do what ought not to be done. Implicit in that last phrase is that LGBTQ is a mental illness caused by its practice. There is a good evidence found in a respected source, the Bible, that LGBTQ is evil. Let me add that it's no worse than any other form of impurity, lust, fantasy, fornication, and adultery. Clearly, its practice is less than what we'd like to see in our community. And our lives is clearly something we don't want to see prevalent in our community. Creating LGBTQ or celebrating LGBTQ is just what Isaiah was talking about when we were calling good evil and evil good, that putting darkness for light, light for darkness, and bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. The whole subject brings up brings on confusion. Confusion that is intentional is evil. Do not approve Pride Month. This decision would add
10 seconds, sir.
confusion. Oh, I'm out of time.
10 seconds.
Oh, 10 seconds. I only got about 10. Yeah, Do not approve Pride Month. That decision would add confusion, already confused set of young people trying to make sense out of an
Thank you, sir.
inconsistent message. They're hearing. Right.
Thank you, sir. Next name on my list is Jacob Castillo.
So I'm also a lifelong Valley resident, a small business owner, service business. So I have the privilege of speaking with hundreds of residents every month and thousands every year. And I talk to the residents all the time. We get into it. We start talking about what's going on around town. How are you feeling? And the biggest thing that our residents that comes to every single time is safety. They don't feel safe here. That's a major problem. And then I'm talking to people on both sides of the aisle. They're Democrats, they're Republicans, there's even a couple of those liberals. Libertarians that I meant. But and that's just what they care about. We don't feel safe. The next thing that they talk about is our schools, our failing schools, that our math kids in the high school are passing at 21%. It's pathetic. And that's come straight for OSPI. And yeah, that we could say is a school issue, but it's a community issue. Those kids are in our community. It's a community issue we have. We have problems here. And these are the pressing issues that require our attention. But instead we get involved in labeling everything. We got to put a label on everything, and that creates division, and we create these identity politics where now you're part of them, we're part of this crew, and we cannot work together. And it distracts us from working on these critical issues that the community has. We cannot come together as a community if we continue to label and divide ourselves. The proclamation that you will be voting on today is very divisive. Instead of focusing on mutual understanding, these labels emphasize our differences. And that's all they go. This is us, this is them. And that divides our community. And I respect everyone's right to self-identify, to express themselves. That's your right. You can do whatever you want. But I don't think that we need to be dividing the community. It doesn't need to be us versus them. We need to come together as a community and fix the problems that are here. And these are just not big problems. That's not, when you go out and you talk to your constituents, you are all voted in by your constituents to represent them. And this proclamation does not represent the majority of your constituents. And I want you to think about that. I urge this board to lead by example tonight and prioritize unity over division. Let's address the high crime rates, these failing test scores by coming together as a community. Let's choose unity in doing so and create a safer, more prosperous community for all of our residents.
Thank you, sir. Next name on my list is Betty Garza.
I wasn't born here, but I was raised. I went to school.
Ms. Garza, please address the council.
Went to high school. I went to college here. A lot of you have seen me at Safeway where I worked because I got tired of being in a little cubby, not seeing anybody. I've never harmed anybody. I am not a mean person. I ran for council. I have 2 boys that I've raised on my own. We've been very honest with each other, which is why now let me read a scripture to you. It's Jeremiah 29:11. And I feel that was given to me by God when I got down on my knees and prayed for him. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. So if this is true, I've lived in the closet for many years. And all it did was I used to get beat up by friends when I was in high school. As an adult, same thing happened to me because of how I lived my life. I don't go to anybody else's houses and tell you you're wrong what you do in your home. Why is that done to me? Why is that done to anybody else in the LGBTQ community? We don't want to be separated from the city. We don't want to be, this is us, this is you. And so you hit the nail right on the head when you said we need to respect each other and be here for each other. That's true. And if that's the case, what is me being gay or anybody else? How is it harming you? How is it harming anybody else? I believe that if God didn't want me here, I wouldn't be here, because we all know that He knows us, everything about us before we're conceived, as we're growing up to the day we die. So He knew what my lifestyle would be. I wouldn't be here if He didn't accept me. Why can't everybody else? All we're asking for is some recognition, because there are so many LGBTQ students in the schools. If you don't believe me, I know a lot of these teachers, they've seen it. A lot of us have seen it. I would rather have them live their life the way they are, because I have held kids in my arms that committed suicide because their parents kicked them out of the house or didn't accept them. But they accept their son or daughter that's out doing drugs and whatnot. Come on now. Have a heart.
10 seconds, ma'am.
That's all we ask is, we're not a danger to society. We're here to help our community as a one.
Thank you, ma'am. And the final name on my list is Sandra Zasadi.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Sasati. First of all, let me change the mood a little bit here, right? I want to congratulate the council on getting the interpreting services. So thank you for working on that. Really appreciate that. And then yesterday we had a very sad situation on 13th Street, and I just want to say thank you for our Sunnyside PD for all the work, and also the community members that came together to help in that situation. So I just want to say thank you for that. Moving on to the next, since everybody's talking about the proclamation, I think that we need to understand that our beliefs are our beliefs, right? Faith is one thing, and another thing is that we do have a community that people identify as LGBTQ, whether we like it or not. So I'm not here to tell council, vote on it. That's going to be your decision, because you signed up for this. You are public servants, and as a public servant, you serve all community members, not just certain community members. And so I do want to remind you guys on that. As I worked at the school district, I worked with various students, and I had to serve students that maybe my beliefs were not in accommodation to their beliefs, but still I have to put my biases aside. So that's one of the things that, as a public servant, since you're here to serve all community members, not just some, you need to remember that. And not only that, but here we are using Bible verses, but yet we're pointing out people. How is that? Jesus ate with the sinners. Remember that too. And I'm not here saying that I'm for or against. I'm just letting you know that I have my beliefs. And at the end of the day, when I die, I'm going to go for my sins, not anybody else's. So you guys are public servants, so you serve all community members. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes the list of names on the public comment period. Council will be taking up that question later on in the meeting near the top of the active agenda. So stay tuned. All right, next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of the following. Approved payroll vouchers numbers 119497 through 119506 and wire transfers as listed for $793,952.07 for the period ending May 10, 2024. Claim vouchers, approved claim voucher numbers 109242 through 109304 and wire transfers as listed for $172,625.08 for the period ending on May 10, 2024. Approved claim voucher numbers 109305 through 109358 and wire transfers as listed for $307,038.37 for the period ending on May 17th, 2024. And finally, approved claim voucher numbers 109359 through 109361 and wire transfers as listed for 2 million, right? No, 2,000. I was going to say. That seemed like an awful lot. 2,000 for the period ending on May 20, 2024. Council members, is there any item that you wish to remove from the consent agenda for discussion? Mr. Gavon.
5642, 5643, 5672.
Okay, Ms. Horner, are you able to address those at this time?
Yeah, please stand by while I pull them up real quick.
The 5642, and I've had this question for a while, it's just a perfect opportunity is for the yellow land use signs. Do we recycle those after everything gets approved? Do the residents bring those back? I know the Yakima County asked myself to bring it back, so I'm just wondering if we recycle those signs.
I believe we do, but Corey, if you could turn your microphone on and actually answer.
Yeah, with those, as soon as the waiting time's over, we go out and pick them up. If they're still in good shape, we will reuse them.
Okay, thank you. And then the next one.
5643 is the Altech. That one, the hydraulic cylinder replacement. Is that the one you're asking about?
Yeah. So we have a full maintenance department, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's 2 or 3 employees there, 2. And I remember during the visit that we took at the beginning of our term, one of my questions was, is there anything that they're not allowed to do? They said they could pretty much do any of the maintenance. So my question is this something that our guys could have done?
I'd have to look deeper into this as far as what it really pertains to. I know that for certain things that they troubleshoot, sometimes they do run into situations that they can't figure out and they will send it out to someone else. Sometimes it's also could be the workload that they have, but yeah, so I'd have to actually ask what was going on with that, why they sent it out.
Yeah, they could shoot me back an email and maybe how many work orders our maintenance department handle on a monthly basis. And then this last one was 5672. We used ARPA money for the Stack House Triangle. Once again, is this something that our department, our maintenance or parks could have done?
This was already part of the ARPA because it was approved from prior, and it was something that we just had a landscaper come in and do because it was part of ARPA. Yeah.
My understanding is we could use ARPA for internal work, for our employees to do the job, if I'm not mistaken.
Not quite understanding the question.
So instead of using an outside contractor, we could use ARPA money to pay our employees. Is that not correct?
That is correct. However, if I recall, the decision on these landscaping issues that we had, that included this here at the police department, some city hall landscaping. It was all approved through ARPA as kind of one package back in 2022. And so this was just the final piece of that. So it had already been approved. And I believe the original reason for that, Shane Fisher was still here as the public works director, but was lack of staffing availability to do the work. So that was the reason for using an outside landscaper.
Okay, thank you.
Does that satisfy your questions, Mr. Gavon?
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Vasquez.
I have a few as well. So I have 5457 and 5642.
42. Ms. Horner.
So 5642 is the US Bank. What's the particular item? That's
So the particular one is 001-513-1049-000. And it looks like a Canva subscription. It looks like it's 266 with 99 cents lodging cancellation fee. Alaba Canva subscription.
Ms. Alba was registered for a training and we canceled that, but there was still fees involved with those. So.
And is that also for a Canva subscription, or I think I got confused with that part.
Is Canva?
Mayor?
Canva is the software that I use to create graphics
Okay.
for our social media posts.
And that's it. That's also including the fee within that price.
I'm not sure, I can't remember if it's the full $266, but I can find out just that
So-
amount.
The line items on those are confusing because it's based on every individual user's credit card statement. And then things that are coded to the same line item might have the same description next to it. So I could get the breakout of that entire credit card statement if you'd like, and we can email that to you.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. And I also have 5457. And it's an amount of $1,363 with 17 cents. And it says oil drum for Cinco de Mayo. And so that's in total 641. So my question with that is in regards of, is that coming out from the city, or do we know if Rotary will be reimbursing that amount?
The oil drum, I think, was for cooking oil disposal. I'm not sure if it's something we've covered in the past. So the determination of the city this year was that if the city had assumed those costs in the past, we were going to continue to do that through this year before the council had a chance to meet and discuss the signature events and what the city was going to support. So I would have to go and look and see if that's something that will be billed to them or not, because there was kind of a mix between things.
Okay, so I've actually had a vendor booth for Cinco de Mayo for the past like 6-7 years. And I know that this is the first year that we've ever had an oil drum.
Oh, okay. So I can check with the Rotary and see if it's something that they ordered and that we just managed for them and that we're billing, or if it's something that we needed for.
Well, yes, and so if it wasn't there in the past, it really has to do with stormwater, because in the past, after Cinco de Mayo is done, stormwater goes through there, and when they clean the streets, we find that oil gets dumped into the storm drains. And so in order to prevent that by having a proper place for some of that used oil, then that's what it would have been used for, is a central location for any used cooking oil that was used.
Correct, and that makes perfect sense. Honestly, it was even very good for the vendors. But my question is more so about the amount, like, is it gonna come out from the city, or do we know if Rotary will be reimbursing that, since they were in control of the signature event this year?
I think because it's a purchase of a supply, most likely the city purchased it and will continue using it at other events. So if I had to just guess based on how it's coded here, it's probably miscoded and it shouldn't necessarily say Cinco de Mayo. It should probably be, it's coming out of our sewer department, which handles our fog, our fats, oils and greases. So it's coming out of that program. So my belief is probably that it's something that the city purchased so that we can continue using it at future events. But until I can confirm that,
Okay.
Right, does that answer your question, Ms. Vasquez?
Yes,
Okay, Ms. Ripley.
I have one. 5439. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Okay.
Office and operating, is that supplies? $1,886.57. Do you want the number in front of that?
I can see it. It's, that again is from the statement, so it's hard to know what it is, but if it's listed as office and operating supplies for the 501 is our maintenance shop. It is probably items that they're using in repairs, like supplies that are used, not resale items or anything like that. It's something that they're using in the actual maintenance process.
Okay. I read that wrong.
All right, so that satisfies your question, Ms. Ripley? Okay, any further questions on the consent agenda?
Nope.
Hearing none, what is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion by Councilor Ripley, second by Councilor Hart to approve the consent agenda. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. And council, I just realized I made a goof at the beginning of the meeting. Please forgive me for that. Mr. Beeler has requested an excused absence, and is there any objection to giving him an excused absence?
No
Okay.
objection, no objection.
Apologies for that delinquency on my part. Active agenda. All right, LGBTQ Pride Month. Approve a resolution proclaiming June as LGBTQ plus Pride Month. Council, questions, comments? Mr. Gavon.
So like I said earlier, I don't agree with the pride flag being flown next to the American flag. That's just my belief there. I mean, it's an American flag. Nothing else should be flown, as Mayor said previously. That's the only one I have an issue with.
Okay, thank you, sir. Other questions, comments?
I have a question.
Ms. Vasquez.
It says approved resolution, or it's also LGBTQ Pride Month proclamation. So just because Jacob Castillo's comment, it kind of like just made me think. So this is a proclamation. Is it something that's already set in stone for us to vote for? Is it something that we can not even like put any action into it, or how does that work?
Well, it's coming before us as a motion, or not as a motion, but as a resolution, which means that we have to either make the motion and then vote on it, and then we vote it up or down, or if the motion, for example, doesn't get a second, then the motion dies. So if nobody makes the motion, then it will not move forward, and it doesn't happen. So no, it's not written in stone at this point.
Okay, that answers my question.
Further questions or comments? Mr. Galvan.
I know it wasn't approved last year. Has it been approved before?
It has in the past, yes. Last year, I chose not to bring it forward. Until this year, a proclamation was the mayor's prerogative. Last year, I chose to make some comments on that and decided because it was such a divisive issue, I did not want to make the proclamation. Probably shouldn't have made my comments on it last year either, because that certainly opened up a firestorm. But this year, council in March decided that they wanted to be in on the proclamation procedure, and they wanted to vote on that and take that out of the mayor's hands, which you have done. And so here we are.
Okay.
All right. Well, on this question, if there's no other questions or comments, I do want to say that we have heard a great deal of commentary on it. And as you, as council can tell, there are very strong feelings on both sides of the issue. There doesn't seem to be any halfway non-committal type positions on this. And I've heard people say, well, we want to vote for, what the majority of the city wants. We are in an interesting position for those of you who haven't been in this position before. No matter which way this vote goes, we will succeed in angering half the room. And I've been in this position once or twice before, as has Ms. Hart, and it's an uncomfortable place to be. But you're not going to figure out from this room what the majority of the community wants. You are going to have to vote on your convictions and what you believe is right. And we have people tell us that as elected officials, that is not our role to do, but yet we are elected to be leaders, and sometimes leaders have to make decisions based on different things than what the general public has to make decisions on. So this is going to be a tricky vote. I myself will not vote in favor of this, but as I said last year, I am a huge advocate of decency, of respect, of compassion, and I will defend a person's rights to my dying breath. Under the law, everyone has the same right to a job, same right to housing, same right to living their lives without harassment or violence, whether it's verbal or physical. We all have that same right. And I will defend a person's right in that situation. The city is very clear on its position on that as well. But my position on the Pride Month is I am opposed to that. Okay, that's my position. So that's where I stand on the question. Is there no other questions? What is the desire of council on this item?
So are we doing a vote now? Since it seems like you did a vote.
No.
No, we did not do that. I just declared my position.
You declared your position?
I-
Okay, so we still
I did.
have room for comment then.
Absolutely, yes, but I waited until everybody else had the opportunity to comment. Nobody said anything, and so then I said my piece.
I mean,
One of the things that we can do as well is we can go ahead and put the motion forward, have someone second it or not second it, and then it would die because it doesn't have a second, which is what the mayor said.
Mhm.
The other thing is we can go ahead and put the motion on the floor, have a second, and then continue debate.
Correct. After the second, there will be time for debate.
So there's still opportunity for
Yes,
conversation.
I'm not closing down comment.
Okay, okay.
So
So
that
wanted
was-
to clarify
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Thank you. Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you.
Been reading that
Yep.
Robert's rules, man.
Yeah.
Um,
All right.
So,
There for a minute.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make, to approve a resolution proclaiming June as, LGBTQ plus Pride Month in Sunnyside.
I second.
All right, we've got a motion by Counselor Hart, second by Counselor Frausto to approve a resolution proclaiming June as LGBTQ plus Pride Month. Debate on this item.
I have a comment now.
Ms. Frausto.
Okay. Thank you for the floor, Mr. Mayor. Like you said, I think we're often faced with making difficult decisions in our lives. I heard a lot of comments throughout public comment, some making valid points. And one of those points that I took right now was I think it was Mr. Castillo who said, you're here to vote for the betterment of the community and for the best interest of the community. In Sunnyside, we're nearly 17,000 people in population, 17,000, and that's growing. When I ran my campaign, I ran promising that I would show up every day, especially during council meetings, to make decisions for the improvement and the betterment of our community. We have people from different backgrounds, experiences, education, living with us, being our neighbors. I'm not a mother, but I have many nieces and nephews, and I've watched them grow up, and I really want to set a good example. And sometimes, again, we're faced with making tough decisions. And I think today is not one of those tough decisions, because I believe in the common good of everybody and for everybody. Again, I made a promise that anything that I would do would be for the betterment of the community. And so I wake up every day asking myself, how could I improve my community, not for me, but being in this position as a public servant for the good of others, because that is what I am here to do. We all know that this job is hard, that this job sometimes is a very thankless job. And sometimes we might feel alone in our convictions and in our decisions. But I'm also a woman of faith. And I know my God would want me to vote, recognizing and including my neighbor and loving my neighbor. So today is not a hard decision for me. We are faced with many hard decisions, but to me, today, I am going to make a very easy decision, and I am going to vote yes in recognizing the people who voted me here today. And I extend a hand to anybody who does not agree with me. I extend a coffee date to anybody who doesn't agree with me, because I am always open for constructive criticism and discussion, because somewhere along the line, we've lost that. We've lost the ability to engage in dialogue with one another. It is always them versus us, versus actually making a decision that will unify, making a conversation available that will unify. So I sit here today making a decision to recognize, love, and hopefully make a decision that will move us in a direction of unity. And it might not be a popular one, but I am standing ground, and I am standing my ground, and I am standing by my decision to vote yes on this proclamation.
Thank you, Ms. Frausto. Further debate on this item. Mr. Governor.
I want to echo Councilor Frostel, and we're here, let's set an example, right? I teach my kids, don't be a bully, treat everybody with respect. And we turn around and we do the same to our neighbors. You might not believe the same, you might not go to the same church, but at the end of the day, we're all human, and we should all respect each other, no matter what the beliefs, no matter what they do. And I'm gonna base my decision, and I'm pretty good at being neutral, and I'm gonna base my decision on that. And I know how to separate you know, church, political parties. And I'm gonna do this to set an example and to teach my kids that, you know, we could respect and treat everybody with dignity and respect. So that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Further debate? All right, hearing no more debate, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
I too vote no. We have 3 and 3. Our tiebreaker is absent this evening. Protocol here. It's tied, a tie vote fails, is that not? All right. After receiving input from our legal department, a tie vote does fail, the motion fails. Next item, museum roof rehabilitation HLA task order. And I don't know how many people are going to stand here for the rest of the meeting. If you wish to get up, I can give you a bit of time to get up and leave, or if you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you are more than welcome to stay here. We encourage you to stay.
And find out what else is happening in Sunnyside. That would be useful to you. Especially the museum. I'm excited about that.
Well, you're excited about that one. Okay. All right. Next item then, museum roof rehabilitation HLA task order. Approve a resolution authorizing the interim city manager to sign a task order with HLA Engineering and Land Surveying Incorporated to complete contract documents to rehabilitate the museum roof and provide construction administrative services after a contractor is selected. Mr. Manager.
This over to Mr. Sanchez and Ms. Ray from HLA. Thank you. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Ray.
Ms. Ray.
Members of council, city manager, public works director, thanks for having me here tonight. To continue discussion from the study session, what we have been asked to do is prepare a task order to prepare contract documents for a structural retrofit on the existing Sunnyside Museum. And in doing so, you know, we need to acknowledge that this is not a small undertaking. Quite a bit of work is necessary on the museum, in addition to just as retrofit of the roof. And to reiterate, the back half of the museum is generally just suspended, and there's noticeable sagging. So some reparation or repairs are necessary in the near future, and this resolution would allow us to do contract documents for that structural design. If approved, we would prepare a cost estimate and the documents necessary for a publicly bid project. Alternatively, as we talked about in the previous meeting, council can table this or otherwise direct the city manager through the public works director to initiate some level of a feasibility study looking into other options.
Council members, questions or comments from Ms. Ray? Ms. Hart.
One of the things that we talked about during the work study portion of the evening was the possibility of instead of going ahead with rehabilitating the roof and the construction administration, maybe go ahead and come up with some designs for an entirely new building. So I'm kind of thinking that it would be in the best interest of the community to maybe look in that direction, as opposed to continue to put money into a building that's more than 100 years old and well past its prime.
Further comments? Mr. Kavan.
I completely agree with you, Ms. Hart. Other cities have brand new buildings, museums. I think it's time that we start working on one with for Sunnyside.
Ms. Ray.
On that, to follow up, I don't disagree with your decision or intended decision, but also, you know, recognizing the historical significance of the building being over 100 years old, there could be elements of the building that can be repurposed into a new building, the columns and stained glass windows and things that, you know, maybe a blending of the old and new could give a more updated, I guess, less maintenance option for you, as well as, you know, maintaining that historical significance. So
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I know when when it was brought to my attention the first time that the trusses in the back portion of the building were actually suspended in air. That entire rear section of the building really has no support, and the roof is sagging for a very good reason, because air is not a very good support structure unless it's pressurized. So that building is facing greater and greater need for rehabilitation or replacement. And so we have to be thinking of this rather soon. We're not going to fix a leaky roof if it is constantly changing shape. And that, and as Mr. Bardell back there is an engineer, he kind of understands how all that works as well. But I think we do need to look into it, but I would like to get feedback from the community, what they'd like to see in their museum. What kind of building do they want to see? What kind of museum do they like? We have a historical museum. Do we want a historical museum, or do we want something else? Do we want to up our game just a little bit? I think we could get some real interesting feedback and come up with something kind of cool. But then again, I'm always looking for something kind of cool, and sometimes that turns into something kind of expensive, and we don't want to do that. But
Yes, we do.
Ms. Hart.
Yes, one of the things that I know that the museum board has been looking at too is a part of the infrastructure of the building for the exhibits and so forth have to do with these kiosks that are self-directed, that all the information about an item that's on display. So we need new electricity. We need things like the new computer systems. So, so that we can show off and people can go through the museum without having to hire an extra docent to guide people around. They would be self-directed. So there's really a lot of great possibilities. I know this is one of the things they're talking about doing. So I think that the option to find out some more what the rest of the community is interested in seeing their museum look like. I love the idea of saving the stained glass, those columns in the front, a couple other things that are integral to the ball building. So yeah, I think getting some sort of a survey, maybe we could do some monkey survey or something, whatever they're called.
Survey monkey.
Survey monkey, that's it, monkey survey. But I do really think that's, I'm really in favor of that idea. I just think if we have an opportunity to seek out some money, get a nice design, get something the community is good with, and save our treasure. It's a kind of a hidden treasure we have in our community, that little museum, and we have an opportunity to do something new with it. Let's go for it.
Further comments or questions? So this comes before us as a resolution. It sounds as if council's ideas are a little bit different than what's before us on the resolution. I'm seeing some heads nodding. Yes. So we can table this and come back at a later date with a different idea, a different way of approaching this, or we can vote on the resolution tonight. What is the desire of council on this?
Table it.
I move to table this item so we could do a feasibility study for a complete new building.
Okay.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. I don't know if it was coming from, I would bring it as a motion. I think it can be approved without objection at this point. So we'll table item B, museum roof rehabilitation HOA task order, and let's look at other alternatives. You go ahead, Rob.
Question, so direction to council, do you want a survey monkey put out to the community? Do you want to see what Ms. Ray comes back with? What's your direction?
I want to see what Miss Ray comes back with,
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, thank you.
pros and cons of,
What the cost could be.
yeah. Uh-huh.
So what I hear, I think, is the direction is to prepare a feasibility study, looking at the existing structure as is, what can be salvaged from it, looking at the current site, trying to do a little evaluation, see if a new museum building can fit on the existing site. And as part of that, we'll be reaching out to the museum board with Sis Kennard to talk about some of their spatial needs, and it will likely be that they're going to want a larger structure than what is there now. So,
Yes, I think that's what you were hearing.
I think
That's what I was hearing as well. So, all right, so this item has been dealt with. We will go on to the next one. Item C. Yes.
You have a motion and a second.
Do we, well, Is this something that can be done with a,
That he motioned to
do
table
it.
it with a feasibility study. She second, Counselor Frausto.
okay, well, I was hoping to do this without objection, but we can certainly do that. All in favor of tabling this item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion to table is passed. That cleans up your books, Madam Clerk, and makes your life easier. I'm certain to do
I
that.
have to use the word feasibility because
It's like a $4 word. Item C, South Hill Irrigation Improvements, HLA Task Order. Approve a resolution authorizing the interim city manager to sign a task order with HLA Engineering and Land Surveying Incorporated to complete contract documents for South Hill Park Irrigation Improvements Project. Mr. City Manager.
Again, I'll turn this over to Mr. Sanchez and Ms. Ray from HLA.
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Ms. Ray.
Ms. Ray.
Members of council, city manager, public works director, thank you again. What this is a task order allowing us to prepare contract documents for improvements at the South Hill Park. The work would be twofold. One is to retrofit the existing irrigation system so that can operate off of irrigation water provided by Sunnyside Valley Irrigation District in lieu of potable water by the city of Sunnyside. And the second portion of it would be to plan for overflow parking as identified on that exhibit. There are 2 parking areas. And our contract documents would be to include the design, which would be grading, a stormwater collection system. And intermittently, these parking lots would only be used for overflow parking for events. So what you have before you is a resolution to allow us to do the actual contract documents, getting this ready for a cost estimate and a publicly bid project. And once we have that available, we'll be back again and talk to you a little bit more about the cost estimate and then going through the motions of publicly bidding this work and getting a contractor selected.
Questions or comments from Ms. Ray?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Gabon.
Where it says the dual use considered a cross connection with the potential contaminating drinking water for the community center. Is that a big issue? Because I think I do the same with my house, right? I get the water and I use it for drinking and I also use it for irrigation.
It is a huge issue on a municipal standpoint. So you have to be compliant with the Department of Health, and health regulates your water systems. So cross-contamination could be anything as simple as having a spigot or a hose bib to watering the yard that could be backflow back in for drinking water. And health identifies that as a potential for contamination. I'm like you, Deputy Mayor, I have the same thing. I have my irrigation on my potable water, which is all fed by a well. But as soon as you get into municipal water systems, the rules change.
Gotcha. And then one more question. How often have we needed extra parking out there?
That is a great question. Mr. Sanchez?
So from my experience, what I've just experienced, last year actually is when we noticed it started to become, one of the events was T-ball, I believe, where you couldn't even get in or out. Everybody parked through that little funnel there as you come in, and the whole parking lot was full, and people started to park in the entrance. And so that's when we noticed that, well, if we're gonna promote more events, we're gonna need more parking. I mean, we want T-ball. It was a successful program, but we realized that the parking lot wasn't big enough for the amount of people that turned out to go watch. The other one was just like you mentioned, that during the Easter egg hunt, people did start to park on the neighboring side across, or sometimes even down which Bimart has allowed some of the parking there along First Street for certain other things. So it's already come up a few times to where we needed more parking.
Mm-hmm. And if I could just interject as well, the Festival of Trees, when we have Christmas events out there, even when there's the dinners for Thanksgiving dinners, sometimes we have an overflow of traffic there as well. So it is really, we're taking care of more people, encouraging more people to come to the center. We definitely need to have some more parking. I just think, and eventually to be able to asphalt it, because as you said earlier, gravel is temporary and we would want to asphalt it at some future point.
I have one more thing if I can add.
If nobody else has anything, I'll let you go, sir. It doesn't seem like any hands are up. Go ahead there, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
I know we discussed this before when we did the tour of the gym, Mr. Sanchez, that the storage, you guys need storage out there, and one of the ideas was to maybe expand the gym south. With doing this, would that potentially get in the way of any future expansion?
No, because, well, we did, that was obviously at that point was just ideas.
Yeah.
But after we discussed this about ARPA and allocating some money to bring in a storage building, which would be right there in the area of the south parking lot in that grassy area behind the gym, that would be close enough, but yet outside of this parking area where it could be fenced in. And it also wouldn't cost a lot of money versus going through the engineering and the expansion of the building, which we don't have the funds for.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions or comments?
I may,
Ms. Ray.
Commissioner Mayor. Thank you for your comment, Deputy Mayor. So what we're showing is some basic layouts for parking lot. The direction that we were given last year was about 200 parking stalls. And so if a little bit more information is known about the storage building, and we'll work with Public Works to understand that, we can change the orientation of that southern parking lot to make it maybe more elongated or to cut back on the parking spaces. So we do have options to allow for other improvements to happen on site.
Good, good.
Thank you for that.
Further questions, comments?
Wait, did we say
Also.
how many more parking spots this gravel would make room for?
Yeah, so on the parking stall up above on the there's a note of new total, and I can't quite
60.
read that.
268.
268, it looks like.
168?
Appreciate that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, reduce it. There you go.
The added though is right above it. So the total with the existing and the new will provide 286, and then the added is
106.
106.
Okay.
Okay.
So that gives us 106 new spots, which will be very helpful.
Yeah.
Immediately, it'll be more than we need, but I think we'll probably outgrow that sometime soon.
As well.
Which I must say, it's kind of exciting to need this more parking for me. I like to see this community center being used. All right, so we have a resolution before us. What is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, I got a motion by Councilor Ripley, second by Councilor Hart to approve a resolution authorizing the interim city manager to sign a task order with HLA Engineering and Land Surveying Incorporated to complete contract documents for the South Hill Park Irrigation Improvements Project. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Item D, thank you, Ms. Ray. Fee schedule update, approve a resolution amending the schedule of fees and charges for 2024. Mr. Manager.
I'll turn this over to Ms. Horner.
Ms. Horner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Manager. This is a update to add fees for the yard sale permit, the fireworks permit, and the accessory use permit for chickens and rabbits that was passed at the last council meeting. So the fireworks display permit was added at $20. The accessory use permit was added at $20 per property, and then the $5 firework permit. In addition, we did add pool rentals for nonprofit recreational use, which was an oversight on the previous fee schedule, where we had incorporated those for the community center, but not for the pool. So we needed to get those in there. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments for Ms. Horner? Hearing none, what's the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve a resolution amending the schedule of fees and charges for 2024.
I second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilor Hart, second by Councilor Frausto. Thank you, Ms. Hart, for reading the motion. All right, any debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. I too vote aye. I counted.
Aye, too.
Okay. Okay, I counted
Your
five.
lips were stuck together there, I'm sorry. Aye.
Trying to decide if you both were abstaining or if you were lost in thought. So
Probably a little bit of both.
it happens, believe me. All right, item E, revolving loan fund allocation increase. Approve a resolution to reallocate $15,000 in the development fund to additional revolving loan funds. Mr. Manager,
I'll turn this over to Ms. Horner.
Ms. Horner.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager, Mr. Mayor. As we discussed in the study session portion, this request is to reallocate some of the ARPA funds that were put for nuisance abatement in the new development fund. Move those from that abatement over to the revolving loan fund so that we can fund all of the applications that we have. After this final approval, we would be closing this application period until we started to get program income in order to open it again, which may take a couple of years, but this would exhaust the requests for this money.
Questions or comments, Ms. Vasquez?
Yeah, so just for clarity, so I was a bit confused during the study session. I clarified with Julia, Ms. Counselor, and we were talking about how we had already subtracted 5,000 from the last three in order to fit the budget that was first established. So now this 15 would actually be open for the possibility of any business to get that money. If we were, yeah.
I believe that the $5,000 was already removed before you got these numbers. So I believe the original request from like Tailored Footwear
was
for 50. And for Bonvinos was 35. Yeah, and
20.
and Despacho was 20.
Yeah, so the money was.
That was my understanding from the Community and Economic Development Committee.
And that's correct. So then this 15, I just want to be clear, then this 15 would be open to possibility, like the chance to help another.
No, because the total total amount of all of those asking amounts right now is 265,000. And so what council's approved so far is only 250,000. So we need to increase it by that 15,000 in order to cover these ones. Yeah.
I misspoke.
In order to cover those three,
Yeah.
we'll need 15,000 to be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear because I know that we did a lot in the committee. It was a lot of back and forth. So I just want to make sure
Sorry, I
I'm clear.
misspoke, yeah.
Ms. Fausto.
So, I'm a little confused. It's really late in the day. So if we move to approve this, does that mean we're automatically approving their applications?
No.
No.
It just makes those funds available. The applications will still come to council for
Understood.
approval.
Understood.
But we didn't want to bring them for approval when there wasn't enough money to fund them.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Just a quick point of clarification. So what Ms. Horner said in the study session was that the last applicant, based on the date of their application, if you don't approve this, will not get any money. They'll be left off. So we would not bring them to present at the next council meeting. So that is why we're asking for this decision to be made now is whether we invite Tailored Footwear, Bonvinos, and Despacho or just Tailored Footwear and Bonvinos.
Gotcha.
That makes sense.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Sorry about that.
We do our best to clarify everything and sometimes it takes various approaches to do that. And
I move to approve the resolution to reallocate the $15,000.
I'll second.
They want a second.
all right, we have a motion by Councilor Vasquez, second by Deputy Mayor to approve a resolution to reallocate $15,000 in the development fund to additional revolving loan funds. Debate on this item?
I just have something. So I think this is perfect because one of my concerns was the abatement fund, not being able to use it by the end of the year. So this is a perfect opportunity to kind of use those 15,000 towards that.
I absolutely agree with you.
Awesome.
I think we may have to reevaluate some of those additional abatement funds as we get towards the end of the year for some other uses as well.
Okay.
Their debate? I only have a comment. I agree with the Deputy Mayor wholeheartedly. All right, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Item F, for those of you following along at home or in the audience, has been tabled. The only comment I want to make on that is council has decided to select a subcommittee. The subcommittee, we have two volunteers, Councilor Fausto and Councilor Hart, and we are going to request Councilor Beeler be a participant in that as well. Although he is absent tonight, we cannot get his approval at this point. So we will get some more information on that. We would all like to be perfectly clear on what we're voting on and give Ms. Fausto the opportunity to explain herself fully. So we're gonna wait till a later date on that one.
Thank you.
Item G, voting procedures. Discuss a change in voting procedures. Mr. Deputy Mayor, this is your item, sir.
Yeah, so it's just a discussion for tonight, something to think about and quite possibly maybe take a vote for next meeting. But currently Sunnyside is divided into 4 districts, District 1, 2, 3, and 4. And as we say, those districts in the primaries, if you live in that district, you vote only for that district. But in the general election, you could vote for the other 3 districts. So pretty much my suggestion would be to move the voting process so we can make it the same as the primary. So if you live in District 1, you only vote for your representative in District 1, both for the primary and the general election. The other 3 positions, 5, 6, and 7, they're at large. Nothing would change with those. Anybody can vote for those positions, both in the primary and in the general elections.
Okay.
So I think it's something that a lot of the cities have changed already. I've now gone through, you know, the process of going through court, and I think we should kind of be proactive and change it, you know, ourselves, and then wait around for you know, maybe a lawsuit to come through and make us change it or take us through court. So any questions?
Council, comments or questions for Deputy Mayor?
I again, with similar to the resolution for initiative and referendums coming forward, I kind of like to set in on this and think about it a little bit more and do a little bit more research on how that particular this only having counselors voted in their particular, it seems like that would cost a lot more money somewhere along the line. When in the general, and you know, when you have more than 3 candidates running, sometimes that can have an effect. But I just feel like I want to have a little bit more explanation of why we want to do that. Why we want to segment it out that way. But you know, just to study it a little bit more. I'm not opposed to the idea, I don't think, but I just feel like I want to have a little bit more information on it.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine for discussion. I mean, if
I just don't feel like excuse me, I didn't mean to jump on anybody else's toes there, but I just feel like we need to have a little bit more. We don't have to do this in a hurry. I just feel like we should really, it will be such a change and a different way of campaigning for office for all of these positions.
Well, it wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
Ms. Fausto, go ahead.
So what I'm understanding here, and this I've been studying. So right now the school district is actually sitting with a letter and intent to sue for the violation of the Voting Rights Act. And I think that what's happening there is very similar to this, and I see the word analogous there. From my understanding, studying politics and studying districting and redistricting, is that the pros to this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Deputy Mayor, but the pros to creating district-based voting would be that we would counter the dilution of the vote that sometimes happen without large-based voting. And I think this is what the Sunnyside School District is dealing with right now. I would like to know, I know Councilor Hart just mentioned there would be added cost to this. I'm not privy to that. I'm not sure how this would add cost, or if it would or if it wouldn't. So maybe obviously this is going to take a little bit more of a deep dive, but But if this means that there would be more of a proportionate, I guess, it would give us a more of a proportionate voting system and a more equitable voting system, then I would definitely lean towards it.
I think I can speak on the cost. We pay for elections. The only way we would incur more costs in this particular scenario is if we decided, okay, at the next election period, everybody has to rerun when maybe that seat wasn't up. Otherwise, we would have a one-time cost incurred to run that election for that seat. Like we say, we pay the county auditor's office $350 for every position we put on the ballot. And if this passed for whatever reason, in the next election, we said, okay, everybody has to rerun. We're running 7 when only 2 were expired. We would pay that $350 on the other 5 seats that we maybe wouldn't have otherwise. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a long-term cost.
Wouldn't be
No.
repetitive then. Okay, thank you.
Okay, further questions or comments? Sorry, my phone decided to light up on me all of a sudden. It made me a little jumpy.
No,
So
yeah, go ahead, sir.
I saw it on the agenda some time ago, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and so I started doing some research, and then finally last week I saw the document that prepared, and I realized I'd been doing research in exactly the wrong way. Because I was assuming that you wanted to convert us to 7 districts, and so I was going through the work necessary to, okay, what is it going to be required to convert us to 7 districts? What are the steps involved in that? And now that I looked at that, I realized that I prepared completely wrong. So I feel like back in college, and I've studied for the wrong subject, the wrong chapter for the final exam. And so I don't feel quite ready to talk about this yet. And honestly, when I got that document and the clerk can attest to that, I was kind of, oh, so, okay. And yet I didn't really know how to respond to that. So I guess there's a couple of different things that come to mind as I was thinking about it. The one objection I guess I would have to either way is Sunnyside typically has a very low voter turnout. I know last year was a bit of an anomaly and had pretty good turnouts, but typically I think in my last election there were 1,000 people who voted citywide, and I won by 50 votes or something like that. If it's only voting in a district, how many people are going to be voting? I mean, is it going to be 25 people in a district who are determining a council seat? That's one of my worries. Then you win with 1 or 2 votes, which, okay, nobody ever likes to have that. There's no kind of a clear mandate in that kind of a situation, but we just typically have a very low voter turnout. And the second thing is, and this harkens back to my preparing for the wrong thing, but I was talking with somebody who had a conversation with an attorney, and as I understood it, again, I may have understood it wrong. When Yakima was going through its lawsuit as far as voting rights and making sure that they weren't violating that and going through all those changes, somebody asked, well, are they going to come after Sunnyside? And it was determined at that time, I guess, that Sunnyside doesn't have any districts that have don't have minorities in it. I mean, they're all pretty equal in their population. We don't have an area where we've got one group of people, for example. Where I live, most of my neighbors, I lived in a very mixed neighborhood. And I think that's true all over the city. And so I guess I'm trying to wrap my mind around, what are we trying to solve here? Why would we be sued? Who are we excluding and how are we excluding them?
Sorry, go ahead.
So, pretty much on the question that you have, we have low voter turnout. I think if we were to change it, whoever is in that district, running for that district, kind of concentrates on the people that live in that district and maybe encourage them more to get out and vote, have a more personal connection with your counselor, right? The other thing is we're allowing the 3 other districts to kind of determine who wins for the fourth district, right? So if we're allowing that, it's kind of like, allowing Seattle residents, like I said right there, be able to vote for the 14th district. We wouldn't want that. We wouldn't want that kind of voting, dilution. They just don't have the same
I guess my response to that is I don't believe Sunnyside is big enough to where we have that different of interest from one side of town to the other. And we were reminded this evening a couple of different times that we are elected by the community. And I like having the idea in the back of my mind that I was elected to serve the entire community, not just a portion of it. And my interests as a counselor lie in the improvement moving forward and everything we can do for the entire city of Sunnyside. Okay, I don't want to be the one that's lobbying. Let's say I live on Grandview Avenue, so I'm going to lobby for all the improvements on Grandview Avenue or on Columbia or something like that, because that's my district and I'm only going to work for that district. No, I am as concerned about every other part of town as I am about my own neighborhood. And so I guess I don't want to lose that. And that's a concern because I am active all over town. I want to see improvements all over town. I want, North Avenue improvements. I want South Hill Road improvements. I want everything in between.
Yeah.
So
I guess when I was, excuse me.
I believe Ms. Fausto has been trying to say something for a little while.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Not
Ms.
in a rush.
Fausto.
No, my question would be, and I don't know, Mr. Riley, Chairman, when was the last time that we assessed our districts and the populations or the demographics with them? I just want to make sure that your statement is a valid one about.
Well, it has to be done with every census. So it's every 10 years. Is that correct?
Just 2020.
Yeah.
YV did an assessment on our districts and they gave that presentation in 2022, I believe. Or it may have been the beginning of 2023 is the most recent time. I worked here already and I only started at the end of 2021.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess what I was thinking in relation to that, and I guess this is what I thought we were talking about when we were talking about voting procedure, is were we looking at redistricting again and based on population, excuse me, but that's not what you're talking about here at all. So that, and to me then, it doesn't seem to really, I agree with Mayor Boersma that I represent not just, I'm in a large position and so again, everybody, I represent everyone in town and try to think of what's good for the entire community based on what people tell me and what they want to see and so on and so forth. But so I don't really, and the voting, the low voting thing is, I think you're right. We all ought to get out and try. We got more votes this past year out than we have in previous years, and maybe it was an anomaly, but nevertheless, I don't think that breaking it down, only voting for District 1 or District 2 or District 3 really accomplishes what we think it might. But that's just my opinion on that.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Been kind of quiet down on the far end of the table here.
Yeah, I think I would kind of want some some more information as well, just a bit more.
So.
And maybe we could table this and then have some more discussion and then bring it back.
Well, it's only on the agenda for discussion, so we don't need to table.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Because we will want to bring it back.
It will come before us at a later date. It's, nobody is up this year for reelection, so if it doesn't pass until a little bit later, it's not gonna hurt anything. But yeah, I understand that you'd like to get that moving as soon as possible as well. So go ahead, Mr. Govan.
Well, I mean, and I wouldn't be opposed to maybe, putting up to the rules committee whenever we meet.
That might be a wise idea as well.
Bring it back to rules.
And we'll set a date for rules to meet.
Good idea.
And we will do that before we leave tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea.
Very good.
And I see other heads nodding as well. Ms. Fausto, you have a comment?
Mr. Riley, do we know of any other community similar to Sunnyside that has a layout like this in terms of district versus at-large voting?
Yeah, Pasco recently, I think 2 years ago changed it, so it's that large.
To district, all positions went to district-based.
Okay, does
Okay.
anybody have a hybrid like way we do? And
Have the at large as.
Forgive me, off the top of my head, I don't know if it's a stronger Pasco or not. But it was for council voting.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because Sunnyside is a bit of a hybrid because we've got the 4 districts and then the 3 at-large seats and the proposal.
Yes,
Mhm.
Pasco does have that large.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
yeah, the district state. Change. I think they have 2 at-large positions.
Okay. Okay.
One last question. So I know we talked about YVCOG doing an assessment. I go back to the assessment question about the demographics, and if we've looked at it in terms of violation, like, are we sure that we've assessed this? And I hadn't thought about this until this was brought up, but like, are we sure that we have reassessed the demographics within the district, the way that we are voting? We are doing it in good faith, and we are not how do I say this word, not at risk for someone coming into such.
Well, and that's where my comment earlier was coming to, is that Sunnyside doesn't have any part of town where we're at risk of being in violation just because of the way our population is dispersed throughout the city. That was, I want to say, a couple of years ago. If that was true, then I have not heard of any kind of a reassessment since then. So it may be something we need to look at.
What was the source, YVCOG?
It was not YVCOG. It was a conversation I had with somebody who had another conversation with an attorney. So that's
kind of diluted.
it's not authoritative, and we would need to get that backed up, but
It is something, is it not, that's based on the census? Okay, so that, we didn't have a very good census during the last
Remember
census.
having that conversation with.
So, yeah.
Where I've seen this happen mostly, and I think the school district's position on it is there's areas that are underrepresented by a certain race, right? And so they're saying, hey, we're unrepresented, we're being overridden by the X race and other areas voting, and who's representing us? Sunnyside's 86% Hispanic. I think you'd have a hard time saying that there's one race in one area or another. I think it's pretty spread out across the community. That's why I think we're probably not being looked at by the ACLU, because how are you gonna pick one area? There's no one area where you can say, okay, this race lives here and this race lives here, they should vote on their own district so they're represented. Where that is the case in Seattle, Pasco, Yakima. But I mean, there's areas that are predominantly one race versus another, but when you're 86% one race and 14% another, I think you're pretty spread out and even across the city. So I think from the research I've done, that's what I've found.
Well, the ACLU is coming again for the Sunnyside School District because we're at a 92% Latino student body and there's no representation on the board. So, I mean, we have a high percentage right there with the makeup of 92% Latino, no representation. So even our high percentage population here of Latinos, I just want to be sure that the way that we are operating is along, is within lines, and we're not open to a possible lawsuit either. And then maybe it just takes some conversation, and then maybe it takes picking this up, and I don't know if we move into this or we don't, but maybe if it would be good to take this opportunity to make that assessment for our community.
no, I agree. I think.
The Yakima lawsuit specifically, and a couple others around Washington State involving this sort of situation, it was based on the numbers. So let's use, for round numbers, you would have 10 voting districts. And with the at-large position, districts 1 through 4 could all vote for a candidate for District 9 that didn't represent the racial demographics in that area. And therefore, you're causing a situation where you're underrepresented proportionally to the typical racial demographic that live in that area. And so that was the basis for all this. Not saying that's what's happening, I'm saying that's the basis for these lawsuits.
Understood.
Okay, further discussion on this item? Ms. Hart.
I agree that we should send it to Rules Committee and take
Okay,
some.
well, before we go home tonight, we will set a date for the Rules Committee to meet and discuss this item, and absolutely. Well, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. You've certainly given us some things to think about. And I have a different perspective on it than I did walking in here this evening. So I appreciate that as well. So thank you for that. And we will continue to work this out and see where we end up with this. This could be something that could turn out to something really interesting. All right, item 4, items from council members, mayor's appointments for boards and commissions. As of this morning, I didn't see anything in my inbox. We have anybody? Is that correct still?
I just sent you one for Ignacio Ramos. He applied for the planning commission. I was missing some documents from him, but I just checked that I didn't send it to him. It's still in my drafts folder, so I just went ahead and forwarded it over to you guys a little bit ago.
Okay.
It's just Ignacio Ramos and then any other applications you haven't reviewed. I had planned to have an evening event where I welcomed anyone that wanted to apply, but my weeks were really busy, so now I will probably next week plan something.
Okay, very good. You know, if anybody who is interested in this or even quasi interested in being on one of our boards and commissions in the open seats, please encourage them to apply. The applications on the city website. And we will look at all applications. We do have some that we have received that we have yet to look at. And so we have that before us as well. So we will be meeting and looking at some of those as well. Other reports, announcements, and or questions by council. I do have one note on here. We have the AWC annual conference in June coming up, and I know Deputy Mayor Galvan has been scholarshiped in. So that means that the cost for his attendance is still available, and we have somebody who is deeply interested in attending. And so I know Miss Ripley really would like to go. Is there anybody else who is desperately desiring to attend the AWC conference?
How many people can show up or can
What
go?
we have money.
That we have money.
What we have money for, yes.
Sorry, anybody can show up, but
We've had, we do have to be careful. Again, if we have a quorum, that does and can complicate things. We have to be very careful about that. We have sent 3. And so we have a couple of people. I saw 2 hands go up in addition to Miss Ripley.
What are the dates for that again?
June 18th through the 21st, which is a Tuesday through a Friday.
Mhm.
And we don't have to go all the days either. I'm already including myself. But there's I think you can attend whatever day you want. That's what I saw. Or you can attend the entire during the
It will be
meeting
held, if I
entirely.
understand correctly, in Vancouver this year. So that's kind of cool.
Same whether you go to all week or one day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, you look at the events that are happening for that day, if you want to attend just that one day, you get a lot of good out of this. I was only able to attend once. They always manage to schedule this when I simply cannot be there, and I'm committed that week to other things, unfortunately. But it's just a matter of putting some funds available. And when I talked with Ms. Horner last week, she didn't seem to think that was going to be a major issue.
I did speak with Counselor Ripley at the Finance and Administration Subcommittee meeting regarding this. We do our best to budget based on the history of who we've sent to trainings. The amount here is, it's obviously great for council members to get as much exposure to things as possible. So those budget numbers can be adjusted. The general fund is budgeted on a fund level. So even if we go over budget a little bit more to get people to go, it's usually not an issue to do so. And it's up to the discretion of council how many people that you would want to have attend. So we can absolutely register whatever you guys think is prudent.
And if you're into networking, it's an amazing networking opportunity.
Okay.
So
I do have one day that I'll be busy, but I think I could reschedule, so maybe I can go. Or I'd be interested in going.
okay. So
3, 4, 5. That would be 4.
we're looking at 5 council members. So you would have to be responsible on your own for not meeting and discussing city business.
Even know them.
You would have to perhaps make new friends and sit with them for dinner and
Which is easy to do.
do the morning walk
Easy
thing
to do.
and that sort of stuff with different groups. I encourage people to attend. I think this is
it
a
is a-
beneficial experience. Again, it's always happening during the weeks when I'm committed to other things, but that is an opportunity for other people.
Go ahead.
If I
Go ahead,
could,
mister.
next year, they're gonna have it in Richland, so.
Yes, they've had it. My first year it was in Richland as well.
The one in Richland then.
Go to the one in.
I'm going to
You know,
Uh-oh.
one of the things that I've learned about it, and I'm planning on running for one of the boards, members, and working to finish up my, leadership, to get my master's of leadership. It's kind of a weird thing. But I think that it is really a wonderful experience. I know that Ripley has gone before. You did get to go one year, didn't you? When it was
Finance meeting, finance.
Well, that's right. We went to Leavenworth, didn't we?
Mhm.
For the budget, when with the office of, the auditors and stuff. But the AWC meeting, you get so much out of it. You're exhausted by the time you get done. They do have little hospitality times to kind of get you revved up again. And lots of good food, but it is really a worthwhile experience. And I really do, as the mayor said, encourage you to go. I've tried to go at least every time I could. But so I'd like to go again because as I said, I'm trying to get on the board there.
Okay, well, I have a list of 5 people who would like to be there.
Oh, is that in it?
Is there any
Anybody else?
ethical issues that we have to be concerned about other than quorum? It would be best.
Be best. There might be a way to have, I don't know, if a person could zoom into some of these meetings. During the COVID, you were allowed to zoom into the meetings. It's not nearly as much fun, but you still had an opportunity to ask questions and that sort of thing. So that, I'm not sure, I think you'd still have to pay the registration fee. And I don't know if they're offering Zoom this year. So but that might be a possibility to avoid that. Then you can watch it in the comfort
Are
of
you
your
trying to
living
go
room.
to, Counselor Hart?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'd like to
She's
go.
trying to get on one of the boards, and so.
Transportation, something like that. I think that's.
So I personally don't have a problem if we have 5 members going, as long as you police yourselves. And all of you are very committed to that. We've managed other areas where we've inadvertently ended up with a quorum at a meeting. And we have managed that very responsibly. We've been very careful. And it would be on each of you to be responsible in that area. And if you can't be responsible in that area, then you probably have no business being on city council. So I would hope that you're all mature enough to manage that. I don't have a problem with that. I see our finance director's head is not exploding over this issue. So he seems to be fine with that. Our attorney said probably best to have 3, but he doesn't have a real serious problem with it. So I'm thinking that we're okay with the 5 of you going, as long as we're committed to being careful about the quorum.
So we'll make hourly appointments to meet with each other individually.
That turns it, no, you will not.
That's called a running
That's a
meeting.
rolling meeting.
It's
We
a
don't.
rolling meeting. Never mind, we can't do that. Seriously, the things I think of to get in trouble with. Sheepers.
All right. Okay, so that one's been decided. We're just going to give everybody an opportunity to reports, announcements, or questions by council. And I'm going to start at the far end with Ms. Vasquez.
Yeah, so yesterday I was working downtown and I saw cops everywhere and there was a kid outside and then the mom went out because, we heard about the shootings and that was very unfortunate. And I was on What's Up Sunnyside and I saw a lot of comments. So I just wanted to share some, and not only because I read them, but because I've also had a lot of community members just asking me as council member, Karen, what's going on? It's like so many shootings all of a sudden and it's starting to feel unsafe again. What are you guys going to do about it as council? And it's just been a lot of questions. So some of the comments, they're saying we should probably bring the game team back, right? And then another one that says, let's start a neighborhood watch again. We did that for 30+ years and it worked great. We knew the cars, we knew what cars belong to what house. We knew basically who lived where. And if we saw anything strange, we took our phones, took pictures, took pictures of cars that shouldn't be there or acting strange when there's so many things we can do. There are so many things we can do, but we can't clean up the community if no one wants to get involved. So with that being said, I just want to remind everyone, all of our community members, that let's start to be a bit more extra responsible and let's start helping out our police officers and let's start seeing what's going on around, what seems strange and how we can help benefit this community because there is a lot of things going on and it's starting to look like before, I was way younger back then, but I remember my parents would be like, you don't go outside. And it's starting to get to that point again. So I know all prayers out to all the police officers, and I just want to say thank you guys so much for all the work. I heard you guys were out there for long shifts yesterday, driving around and being very, very alert. So just thank you for that. And thank you for keeping our community safe.
Ms. Ripley.
Oh, nothing really to report other than little speedsters on my road. I'll call the police station tomorrow and request extra patrol.
I've got a guy that I can put over there.
Hey,
That loves traffic. So I'll just direct him over.
Right.
All right. Ms. Fausto.
I had a couple points here, but just going off of what Councilor Vasquez mentioned about, everybody doing their due diligence to make sure that our community is safe. I think we've been seeing this over time and I love my community. I was born and raised here, went to school here. I like to say that I was still around before the phones were a thing and I was still playing hide and seek in my neighborhood. And I mean, those were really, really good days, and it doesn't say that we no longer have them or we no longer can have them. But what I do encourage us to do is, especially, I mean, I see the comments on Facebook too, Councilor Vasquez, is that I think what we should do as a community and as council and as leadership in this room is to really start being intentional about solutions. A lot of us talk, I mean, it's easy to go on social media and have a million opinions about something. It's easy to be type writer warriors. It's easy to call something out when you're upset about it and maybe you don't even have all the facts, but you are upset about the playgrounds and we really shouldn't be quick to judge, but we should be quick to come to the table and brainstorm to figure out what are going to be the best solutions for any problem happening in our community, especially when it comes to shooting. So my thoughts and prayers do go to the Sunnyside PD that did a whole lot yesterday. I live right on Irving, so I saw y'all out there. But also, thoughts and prayers to the family and the victims, and we continue to have them. But hopefully, we get to a place where we're no longer extending our thoughts and prayers, but we're extending solutions to the ongoing crisis that we've really just seen throughout time, and sometimes it does escalate. So I really just encourage all of us to come together and try to find some true and concrete solutions to some of this. And a lot of the time, Deputy Mayor, I mean, we've been in conversation quite often about this. So have you, Councilor Vasquez, about investing in the youth. A lot of we have to start looking at the root problem. When we start giving the youth more to do, when we start giving them more support, a lot of the time they don't, divert into gangs and hopefully things like these are just we can go sideways on them and try to avoid them. But let's start looking at the root cause and trying to aim at it. And what could we do to really start building a stronger and more empowered youth, so we no longer have to be, offering our condolences to many of the youth that are losing their lives out there. And one thing that I was gonna say, I did get a call from a community member, talk about getting calls, Councilor Vasquez, which is very valid, and I really appreciate them, but it's about code enforcement. So I was actually gonna send this out in email. There's an auto parts right next to Javi's Chicken and Churros, and the community member did mention to me that there was a lot of debris out there. They have like a boat out there and tarps out there, and they're just concerned that someone might be living under the tarp. I did swing by and I did see these things, but I wanted to use this time to also extend the information out to you all, in case code enforcement can go out there and check it out. Yeah. And then another thing that is a big problem and that I see on social media is the ongoing animal problem. We are in the middle of an animal problem, crisis, whatever we want to label it. So again, I really do encourage my fellow council members
to really start coming up with solutions. And I know that we have the animal shelter that's coming, but honestly, if we build up that animal shelter and we're not hitting the root cause to the problem, that animal shelter is just gonna be overflown, and it's really not gonna bring us any concrete solidified solutions to our ongoing animal crisis. So I also encourage y'all to come forward with some plan to really hit the ground running and for once really try to solve this ongoing problem. And I go on Facebook sometimes and I see this on WhatsApp, and people are really concerned, and our partners who are also fosters are at capacity. So let's try to figure something out because it's ongoing, and we really need to remedy this. So that's my final comment.
Mr. Deputy Mayor.
So I attended the Country Gals Development ribbon cutting, and nice homes out there. I was talking to the owner and some of his assistants there, and think and it's not the first time I hear about this, but contractors don't want to come to Sunnyside to build. So and it's either because they've had issues with the city, with permits. And it's unfortunate because we need houses, right, in Sunnyside. And I think Jacqueline, was part of that conversation there, and you were gonna forward the email to city manager. So hopefully something, we could sit down and maybe have a discussion, about that. I'm not on the subcommittee for community development, but maybe that's something that subcommittee can tackle. Just so we could, build that reputation back, and contractors want to come to Sunnyside. Another thing is I've had a few complaints about the trash service. So if maybe, I don't know who deals with that, Ms. Horner, maybe you could email me their agreement or whatnot. It's residents that say every week it's something different. Now you have to put your trash counts here, and now they go there, and
My staff in the utility billing department and city hall deal with Yakima Waste on a daily basis with a lot of different residents. So any of those comments that you get, if you have particular addresses or something, absolutely send them my way. The contract we're in is a 10-year contract, so there's not a lot we can do to change it, but I do believe that Yakima Waste is fairly responsive when we do provide them with particular addresses, and they keep good records on addresses. They actually take pictures sometimes of problem properties as well. So we can do a lot of research and get a lot of information if we have that info to go off of. So do please send that to me. I do know that this week, or last week, sorry, today's the first day of this week, but last week, the finance supervisor did actually go out to a location here in town too and take a picture of one that we had gotten some continued complaints on, and is working on getting that resolved with Yakima Waste and the business owner. And so we do try to be as proactive as possible with solving those problems.
Thank you for that, Ms. Horner. Also, like Ms. Horner said earlier, the finance and administration subcommittee met, and I just want to thank you in public. You're doing an awesome job there, Ms. Navarro. You are too. Always answering the questions, being there and with the information that we need. So keep it up. Thank you. And then LTAC committee, Ms. Horner and I have a meeting coming up mid-June, and we're going to be talking about the first LTAC meeting. So there's two vacant positions right now. So I encourage anybody that is there that can apply to apply for the LTAC committee. And that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Hart.
Well, as luck would have it, I got to be out of town all this past week. So I got to read just What's Up Sunnyside, which those anonymity is a wonderful thing. And then I was really saddened to hear about the shooting, of course, and there was a fire. Wasn't there a fire also in the past week?
Not that I know of. I know we had the incident at the hospital on
Oh, that was it, the hospital.
Sunday.
So I'm just curious if that's all been resolved or not. But the rest of the time I just boogied around, hung out with lions, tigers and bears over in Ferndale for my service organization I belong to. So but kudos to the rapid response on the issues for health and safety. That's a wonderful thing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I want to echo what Ms. Hart said about that as well. Our police and fire departments handled situations very professionally, very well. Got the job done very quickly, and they are to be, honored for that. I think that was well done. I've had a very busy 2 weeks, and so if I've seemed a little bit vague on a couple of things, I apologize. My youngest daughter got married a week ago this past Saturday, and then next weekend, Memorial Day weekend, my second daughter decided to move out of her apartment, which was on a second floor, to a single-story house. She lives in Arizona, and guess who gets to help paint and carry heavy items downstairs, load it into trailers, and then move it into the house. So that's my weekend. If I'm moving a little bit stiff, that's why. I got back Sunday night and saw the reports about the incident at the hospital, and I'm thankful that it was not more serious than it was. I believe they handled it very professionally. The news was put out there. People were advised to take a great deal of care, and I appreciate how that was done. It was really good. The weekend of my daughter's wedding on Sunday afternoon, I got a call from the chief. There was a ribbon cutting that somehow or other there was a lack of communication for a number of different reasons. And there they were out there in the parking lot of the Corset House, ready for their grand reopening, and shocked that nobody from the city was there. That's because we hadn't received communication, because there was another thing that hadn't been quite fully addressed yet. And so the city didn't know that they were actually going to go through with it. So I rushed down there and participated in that, and I was grateful I was able to be there. It was ironic because all of my daughter's bridesmaid dresses and wedding dress had been adjusted and fixed and modified by the folks at the Corset House, and so I was able to be there, and I could thank them in person for the work that they did for the wedding on the preceding day. Also, yesterday I participated in the Memorial Day service. I encourage council members to be at these services if you're in town. We in the valley, we have a huge connection with our vets. So many of our young people have served in the military. We have, kind of a sad list of names that get read off every year of residents of Sunnyside who were killed in foreign wars. It starts with World War I and goes all the way up to current military encounters. And then it's also a kind of a depressing list of those veterans who have passed away in the last year, who survived the war that they were involved in, survived their term in service, but yet now because of age, they're passing away. And it seems as if I'm getting to know more and more of them. These are people who I've known much of my life, and there's so many more names that I recognize, especially those younger than my dad, because, his name was read off in 2016. And so that was a very good service. And again, I encourage council members to be there. The weather's not always super cooperative, but I think it's worth your time and effort. There's two opportunities. They do one at the Outlook Cemetery at 9 o'clock in the morning. Then they'll do another one at Sunnyside Memorial Gardens, at 11 o'clock. So next opportunity, of course, will be Veterans Day in November. Again, encourage people to attend that. I think that means a lot to our veterans as well. And so I encourage participation in that. And that's pretty much sums up my last couple of weeks, other than reviewing notes for upcoming council meetings and agenda items. So, and with that comment, upcoming council meetings, the next thing on our agenda. And Madam City Clerk.
As of right now, we don't have anything for June 10th, but that always changes. And then we have a special meeting for a retreat on June 17th to discuss city council priorities and ARPA updates. June 24th, study session and regular meeting. We have the stormwater rate analysis and water system plan that may be pushed back depending on the response from Department of Health, and implementation plan for the stormwater rate analysis.
All right. Once again, a reminder to everyone, if there's an item that you wish to get on the agenda, please make sure it is brought to the clerk or brought to my attention or the manager's attention prior to, or no later than the Wednesday before the meeting. Gives us time to get that on and get that posted and comply with the law. You have a question?
Just on the special meeting retreat on the 17th. Is that going to be a morning, afternoon, evening? Do we have
Starts at
a-
noon.
Starts at noon.
Thank you.
That's what you have up there.
I thought
I thought we started at like
Two.
9.
10 to 3 is what I had on my calendar.
Yes,
That's
10
when
to
the items
3.
are due? Or is that what you had on your?
No, that's the special meeting on June 17.
No, on the calendar, it's at 10 a.m. And then if you have any items that you'd like to add to it, I need to know by June 12th at noon.
Okay,
Somebody's being a smart aleck over here.
okay, got you now. Thanks.
Red at least. I mean, come on.
Right. Why do I get the feeling, Ms. Frauss, that the teacher noticed you in school? It's. So yeah, the June 17 meeting is a daytime meeting, 10 to 3. So we'll keep that in mind, adjust your work schedule accordingly.
Okay.
All right, and item 5, items from department heads, Mr. City Manager.
We'll start with Ms. Navarro on the end and work our way this way.
Good evening, City Council. I will keep it brief. We've been here a while, but what I wanted to provide to you tonight is just year-to-date numbers for what we've been doing in the Human Resources Department. So from January to May, we have received 250 applications. Of those 250 applications, we've had 57 interviews and filled 29 positions. That includes seasonal, temporary, and full-time. Of our seasonal positions, we've had 23 returners, which is a 55% returner rate. We are still recruiting for a maintenance worker in the water department, the recreation coordinator, the community and economic development director position, and we are still in active recruitments for dispatcher and corrections officer. Thank you.
Nothing to report this time. Keep it quick.
I'll be brief as well. I am just finishing up the annual report, which is due tomorrow, so I will have it filed, but I'm still just combing through it to make sure it's as accurate as possible. And other than that, we are supposed to be implementing our new financial software on June 3rd. So I'm crossing my fingers that that is going to go well. And so if you get different reports at the next council meeting that look different, the check register may look different. It's because we are trying to get our new software up and running. So just be prepared for that. I'm hoping that it will give us a lot better and more useful reports, but it's been a long project. So hopefully it'll be finished soon.
I just have a few items that I wanted to update you on. The tree on 6th Street that Deputy Mayor brought up last council meeting about that it was dead. Yeah, so got a hold of the contractors. They're working through getting that replaced, so it's been addressed. Also update you the lights at Central Park. PP&L came out and finally took care of that. So I think a lot of people would be happy for that. The pool house got completed. It's been painted. It's done. Now we are working on at the mechanical building and getting that painting going as well. That was started. Central Park does have the Parks Department has been working on an irrigation water main break there. So they've been working on it since last week. So if you notice the grass looking a little dry, that's the reason, but they're working on it. And the pool started last week getting it filled, and so it should be ready here soon. Today they were gonna kick on the heater, the boiler, and start heating it up. So far all that's going according to plan. That's all I have.
I'll be real quick too. These are all year to date as well. We've got 145 building permits issued, which have resulted in 433 building inspections. 32 fire life safety permits, and we've done 29 fire inspections on those. Licensing, we're at 194. The only part of that is it includes the yard sale permits as well as in that licensing, so. And then code enforcement, we're currently working on 40 records there.
40.
What's that? 40 records there on the code enforcement. They're working on.
And I just wanted to follow up on the ribbon cutting. I followed up with Maddie after that weekend and for the Corset House, she said that she did not receive a confirmation from the Corset House. Usually even if we do get a day's notice, we'll try to fit it in as much as possible, but Maddie is handling the ribbon cuttings and she said she didn't receive a response from them after for confirmation. And then the next ribbon cutting that's happening is this Friday at 3 p.m. for Catalina's Coffee and Bistro. And that is on 6th Street. And you should have that in your email or calendars if you accepted it. Also today we implemented the interpreting services. Jafet helped out so much to get this ready. And our interpreter is live right now. And if anyone has any questions or suggestions on how this went, just let me know and Jafet and I can work through those. And that's it for now.
Ms. Renteria? So,
Yes.
For the ribbon, I got a text from Catalina's and they should be getting to you, but they have a family emergency going on and they are gonna cancel. So I want to let you know, they should be getting a hold of you in the case that it shifts any of y'all's plans and calendars.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. I'll just follow up with her and Madi.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm taking it off my schedule. Give me 1 minute here.
While he's doing that, can I say one thing I forgot? Me and Marie Ramirez, the recreation supervisor, finalized the scholarship application today for recreation programs. So council did allocate $7,500 for recreation scholarships, which is mostly used during the summer to cover swimming lessons and the summer camp. So just FYI, those should be hitting our site and available in the community center this week for people to start filling out.
Thank you. Thank you for that update.
Excuse me.
That's great.
Okay, my turn, I guess. Last 2 weeks, the police department's handled 431 incidents, 287 traffic stops. In 2 weeks, that's a pretty good number. 30 arrests, 11 criminal non-traffic, 14 criminal traffic, and 53 traffic infractions were issued. We're normal on all our NIBRS reporting, which is our reporting to the FBI. So we're down at 18% in aggravated assaults, down 18% in burglary, breaking and entering, down 5.9% in motor vehicle theft. We're at 0 on murders and non-negligent manslaughter, which is we're not up or down. Robberies were up 150%. We had so I can give you the numbers since 2019. It's 2, 5, 2, 9 in 2022. And then 2 last year and 5 so far this year. So that's year to date. That's raised that significantly. Simple assaults down 27%. Motor vehicle thefts are up 60%. And we're way down. 2019, we had 48, 57, 47, 26, 15, and then 24 this year. So we're up a little bit, but from last year, but we're actually below the previous 4 years. Vehicle theft of motor vehicle parts or accessories were down 100% from last year at this point, and weapons violations were actually down 7%. A couple of things. So we did have the homicide last night. I can't stress enough that we can only, we're working with 3 or 4 officers. The community involvement is what helped us last night. This guy committed this crime at 6:44 p.m. He was arrested at 11:22 p.m. and he was on foot in the area that entire time. Never left the area. So it was constant calls from community members. We're seeing him. He's running here. He's running there. And one of our officers ended up finding him and chasing him down and catching him. But the help from the community, people a lot of times will say, I don't want to get involved. I'm not going to call or whatever. We need people to get involved. And last night is a classic example of how people getting involved helps us and we're able to make the arrest. June 14th, we have our movie in the park. You mentioned the gang team back off of Facebook. That is a high priority of ours. The only reason it's been gone is staffing. We're not far from it. It's probably within our next, if we can hire three more, get three more ready to go on the road, which there's three guys in the academy. If we can get those guys back and running, we'll probably have that spot back up. We do have a guy retiring at the end of this month, which isn't helping. The hospital incident, I just wanted to give you a brief little rundown on that. What it was there was some people that worked at a construction site. They went to recycle some metal. When they went to recycle the metal, the recycle place said this metal has radiation on it. And radiation can be used in welding and different types of things with metal. So he said, there's radiation on it, we can't take it. So they took it back to the job site. Hey, the guy rejected it, says radiation on it. No big deal. This was like Thursday. Sunday, one of the guys doesn't feel well, decides to go to the hospital, gets his buddies to come with him. He said, hey, we should all go get checked. So like 6 or 7 people show up at the hospital, said, yeah, we have radiation. They're inside the hospital. So the hospital freaks out, gets them out of the hospital, gets them in the parking lot. Well, so we're thinking we have a radiation exposure. So we, the fire department treated it exactly like they should have. Police department came in, closed roads, warned residents, everything else, brought in the meters, and there was no radiation. But it was a good dry run. Any hazardous materials incident in the state of Washington, Washington State Patrol has authority over that. So that's why I put out the brief thing on Facebook initially. And then I said, State Patrol's handling any further information is going to come from them because they'd taken over the incident from us. And then I think it was the Department of Health or Department of Ecology came down. They got involved. Office of Emergency Management came down and got involved. And then they want to control the information flow at that point. So we kind of backed off. Facebook didn't help the situation any. There was a ton of speculation. Oh, this is coming from Hanford. There's a major incident in Hanford. There's a this, there's a that. I'm reading it all going, oh my gosh. And so finally I said, it is not from Hanford, and I couldn't keep up with the Facebook. So I just left it and tried to put out as much information as we could. But yeah, so that's what the incident was. It was really a non-issue, but we had to put something out. Hey, we have this potential problem right when it happened, just in case it was real. And then it just took off from there. But yeah, it was a construction site in Benton County, not far over the county line. I don't believe it was 3-4 days later. And that's basically what it was. So,
But as you said, it was it turned out to be a great dry run on how to handle that kind of a situation.
correct. Yep. And we do have a hazardous materials team at our fire department. Luckily. So, there's awareness level hazmat, trained people that are aware of that's bad, type of thing. And that's what most fire departments are trained at. Ours are at an operational level, I believe. And that's, where they have all the additional, training. They can actually go and decon people, things like that. So they were able to set up all their equipment, I believe. So that's what it was.
We had the team for the fertilizer plant fire when it happened on Midvale Road too. So that we have those people in place and they've been a benefit.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, there is nothing else on our agenda, so there being no further business to come before council and without objection, this meeting is adjourned at 8:42 p.m.